There's a kind of heaviness that doesn't come from sadness. It comes from too much. Too much noise, too much stuff, too many tabs open, inside the mind and inside the home. Jared lived in that heaviness every day. Packages he never opened sat in piles. Clothes he never wore filled his closet. His apartment wasn't dirty, just crowded. And in that clutter, his thoughts felt crowded too. Before we begin, if you love quiet, modern stories about small moments that shift everything, please like this video, subscribe, and leave a comment. It helps these gentle stories reach the people who might need them most. One exhausted morning, Jared dragged a bag of recycling down to the bins behind his building. Cardboard boxes, plastic, old receipts, leftover pieces of a life on autopilot. As he let the bag drop, something bright flickered at the edge of his vision. A cardinal landed on the recycling bin, looking directly at him. It didn't fly away. It simply watched. And for the first time in months, Jared paused long enough to see what his life had become. Jared Turner woke up to the familiar sight of clutter. Stacks of delivery boxes leaning against the wall, shirts draped over the back of a chair, a tangle of cables on the coffee table. His apartment wasn't dirty, just crowded. Crowded in a way that made his chest feel tight the moment he opened his eyes. He rubbed his face, exhaling slowly. Another morning. Another day, surrounded by things he didn't remember buying. An unopened package sat by his bedroom door. He stepped over it. In the kitchen, he pushed aside old receipts to make space for his coffee mug. When he finally reached the living room, he pulled a thick trash bag from a drawer and began stuffing it with flattened cardboard, remnants of late-night purchases that never brought the comfort he thought they would. By the time he tied the bag, his shoulders ached. He carried it downstairs to the recycling area behind the building. The early morning light was cool and pale, painting everything in soft gray. He lifted the lid of the recycling bin and dropped the bag inside with a thud. Then, a flicker of red. Jared looked up. A bright cardinal perched on the rim of the bin, feathers glowing like a drop of sunrise. Its small body was still, but its dark eyes locked onto his with an intensity that made him freeze. The bird didn't flinch, didn't flutter away. It just watched him, steady, present, unbothered by the mess at his feet. Jared swallowed. For a moment, the cluttered noise inside his mind went quiet. And in that quiet, he realized he hadn't paused, truly paused, in a very long time. The next morning, Jared stepped around another pile of boxes on his way to the kitchen. He didn't mean to look at them, but they were everywhere, leaning against walls, stacked under the window, crowding the edges of his life. He opened the fridge, grabbed a bottle of water, and found himself staring at a cluster of takeout containers shoved in the corner. Another thing he kept meaning to clean. Another thing he kept avoiding. He sighed. Later, he muttered. But the moment he said it, something inside him tightened. He'd been saying later for months. With a small groan, he pulled one overflowing paper bag from the floor and started filling it with flattened cardboard and old receipts. When he lifted the bag, it felt heavier than it should have, like it held more than packaging, like it held the weight of decisions he'd been avoiding. He carried it downstairs. The recycling bins behind the building sat in the shade, the metal cold under his fingertips. He dropped the bag into the bin, expecting nothing. Then, the flutter of wings. Jared turned. The cardinal was back, perched on the same rim as yesterday, bright and still, watching him with that same steady, unblinking presence. Its head tilted slightly, as if taking him in. Jared let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. "You again?" he whispered. The bird chirped quietly. Once, a small sound, a precise sound, and something about the timing hit him harder than he expected. 2 mornings, 2 bags taken out, 2 appearances. A coincidence, maybe. But as Jared walked back upstairs, he couldn't shake the feeling that the bird had shown up to witness the exact moment he decided to let something go. Jared stood in the center of his apartment, turning slowly as if seeing the space for the first time. The clutter hadn't changed overnight. The stacks of boxes were still there, the tangled chargers, the half-forgotten gadgets, but something in him had changed. The image of the cardinal perched on the recycling bin lingered in his mind like a quiet echo. Old packages, broken headphones, a keyboard he meant to fix, a sweater he bought on impulse but never wore. He exhaled. "All right," he whispered. "Let's start." He grabbed one box, flattened it, tossed it aside, then another and another. Dust lifted into the air, swirling through a thin beam of sunlight pushing through the blinds. The room felt brighter with every piece he removed. Halfway through sorting the pile, he heard a tiny tap on the window. Jared looked up. The cardinal sat on the fire escape railing, just outside the glass, red feathers glowing in the mid-morning light. It wasn't singing. It wasn't moving much. Just watching. Jared paused, a small, surprised smile forming. "You're persistent," he murmured. The bird tilted its head, as if acknowledging him. Jared went back to sorting, but this time he felt calmer, like he wasn't doing it alone. Each item he tossed made the room feel a little lighter, his mind a little clearer. By the time he tied up the next recycling bag, his breathing felt easier. For the first time in a long time, the apartment didn't feel like it was closing in on him. It felt like it was opening up. 2 days later, Jared woke up feeling off. The sunlight felt too bright. The apartment felt too quiet, and the small patch of floor he had cleared now seemed insignificant against the clutter that remained. He sat on the couch, scrolling through his phone without meaning to. One notification led to another, then another. Ads, sales, recommendations. The endless pull of "you might also like" tightened around him like a net. Without thinking, he tapped "buy now" on a discounted gadget he didn't need. A familiar wave of regret washed over him. He closed the app, then reopened it, then closed it again. His chest felt heavy. By afternoon, he tore open the new package with a frustrated sigh and shoved the box into another recycling bag. His hands shook slightly as he lifted the bag and carried it downstairs. He approached the recycling bins with a strange mix of hope and shame. Maybe the cardinal would be there. Maybe it would appear again, steady and bright, reminding him to breathe. But the bins were empty, silent, still, no flash of red, no tap of wings. Nothing. Jared stood there, bag in hand, feeling foolish for expecting anything at all, for relying on a bird, a wild, unpredictable creature, to mark his progress. He dropped the bag into the bin and waited a moment longer, eyes searching the fence, the railing, the branches above. Still nothing. The absence stung in a way that startled him. Without the cardinal, the morning felt heavier, and he realized how quickly he had grown used to that quiet companionship and how much he missed it. The next morning, Jared woke with a dull ache behind his eyes. Last night's relapse, the impulse buy, the scrolling spiral, the disappointment clung to him like humidity. He sat at the edge of his bed, fingers pressed to his temples, surrounded once again by clutter that felt louder than any noise. But something inside him resisted giving up. He stood, walked to the kitchen, poured himself a glass of water, and stared at the mess. Instead of feeling defeated, he felt tired of the cycle, tired of suffocating, tired of drowning beneath things he didn't even want. He set his phone in a drawer, closed it, and didn't take it back out. Keep and donate. The keep stack was surprisingly small. The donate pile grew quickly. He moved to his bookshelf, half filled with old gadgets, tangled cables, unopened mail. One by one, he decided, keep, recycle, let go. The room began to breathe again. When he finally tied up a fresh bag of recycling and carried it downstairs, he wasn't expecting anything. He wasn't doing this for the bird. He was doing it for himself. He dropped the bag into the bin. A soft chirp broke the quiet. Jared turned sharply. The cardinal perched on the handle of the recycling bin, feathers brilliant against the metal. It chirped again, gentle, steady, as if acknowledging his effort, not his perfection. Jared exhaled slowly, a warmth spreading through his chest. He didn't say anything, but he didn't need to. For the first time, letting go felt like moving forward, not failing. That afternoon, sunlight streamed through the blinds in a way Jared couldn't remember noticing before. It stretched across the floor, touching the freshly cleared space where clutter once lived. For the first time in months, he could see a patch of carpet he didn't even know was that color. He stood in the center of the room, hands on his hips, breathing in the difference. It wasn't perfect, but it was lighter, and so was he. He opened the window to let fresh air in, a breeze that carried the soft scent of the outdoors. Dust motes floated and shimmered like tiny drifting stars. Then he noticed the plant near the balcony door, leaves limp, soil completely dry. He knelt beside it, pressing his fingertip into the dirt. It felt forgotten in the same way he had felt forgotten by his own habits. "Not anymore," he whispered. He filled a cup with water and slowly poured it into the pot until the soil darkened and softened. The plant seemed to lift just slightly, as if relieved. Jared rearranged a few pieces of furniture, moving a chair closer to the window, shifting a table to open more space, folding blankets neatly. Each small choice felt like reclaiming something. When he stepped onto the balcony to shake out a rug, he felt a soft flutter of air beside him. The cardinal was perched on the railing, feathers glowing warm under the late afternoon sun. It chirped once, quietly. Jared smiled, leaning against the railing. "You're making a habit of this," he murmured. The bird didn't move. It just shared the moment, still, present, peaceful. And for the first time, Jared felt his home becoming a place he liked being in. By the weekend, Jared had cleared most of the obvious clutter, the boxes, the old gadgets, the stacks of mail he never opened. His apartment finally had space to breathe. But one thing remained, a single cardboard box tucked away in the back of his closet. He hadn't touched it in years. He wasn't even sure why he'd kept it this long. Jared pulled it out and set it on the living room floor. Dust clung to the tape, and the cardboard sagged slightly at the corners. His stomach tightened as he lifted the lid. Inside were things he'd avoided facing. Old birthday cards, unused notebooks, photos from a different version of himself, a sweatshirt from a past relationship, ticket stubs from concerts he went to before life became so crowded with noise. He sat cross-legged on the floor, fingers tracing the edges of memories he wasn't sure he wanted to hold on to or release. A soft tap at the balcony door made him look up. The cardinal stood on the railing, closer than usual, feathers glowing against the muted afternoon light. It hopped once, then perched still, watching him with the same patient presence it always brought. Jared let out a slow breath. He picked up each item from the box and asked himself quietly, "Does this still belong to my life?" A few photos, a journal page, a letter that still meant something, but most of it he let go. When he carried the final recycling bag downstairs, it felt different. Not heavy, not regretful, just necessary. The cardinal chirped once as he tied the bag, as if marking the moment. For Jared, it felt like turning a small, gentle corner inside himself. The morning after clearing the last box, Jared woke to a soft stillness. Not the heavy stillness he used to feel, but something lighter, something clean. The kind of quiet that made room for breath instead of burying it. He made coffee and walked onto the balcony, letting the steam rise into the early light. The city was waking slowly. A car rolling down the street, a neighbor's door closing, birdsong weaving through the air. Then, like it had been waiting for him, the cardinal glided onto the railing. Its feathers shone brilliantly in the soft glow, a bright contrast against the muted world. It chirped once, clear, grounded, present. Jared smiled, hand wrapped around the warm mug. He didn't need the cardinal to show up today, but he was grateful it did. The narrator speaks now, gently, like a quiet realization settling into place. 1. Sometimes the things we keep aren't comforting us, they're crowding us. 2. Letting go isn't losing. It's clearing a path back to yourself. 3. Small decisions done quietly change a life more than big promises. 4. Clutter in the home becomes clutter in the mind. 5. And peace often begins with a single moment of choosing space. The cardinal fluttered its wings and took flight, rising above the alley, above the rooftops, disappearing into the open morning. Jared watched it go, breathing deeply, feeling the space around him and inside him finally open. His home was lighter, his mind was clearer, and for the first time in a long time, he felt ready for what came next. If this story touched you, thank you for being here. Please take a moment to like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe. Your support helps these gentle, modern stories reach the people who need them most.